So welcome to this fourth video of chapter 3. So we're going to be looking at, so in the beginning I told you we're going to be looking at ungrouped and unweighted data. But as you know, as you've already seen from chapter 2, I think, or chapter 2, yes, that you can actually have data which is grouped. For instance, we have marks for a certain test, and these marks are going to be run between, let's say, these marks are between 1 and 40, 0 and 49. Yes, 0 and 49. So let's just generate 50 of these values. So let me just fix this so they don't change all the time, yeah. So I do a value paste, so now they're fixed. So then we have the categories, right? We have the categories. We have people who scored 0 to 9, 0 to 9. We have people who scored 10 to 19. We have people who scored, I always forget, we have to convert this now to text. We format this as text, yeah. So we have 0 to 9, we have 10 to 19, we have 20 to 29, we have the 30s to 39, we have the 40s, 40 to 49. So these are our upper limits, 9. So I'm going to get the midpoints. So the midpoint here is 4.5. The midpoint here is 14.5. The midpoint here is 24.5. The midpoint here is 34.5. The midpoint here is 44.5. So we are going to get the our upper limits, because Excel needs the upper limits. We have the 9, we have 19, we have 29, we have 39, we have 49. Then we're going to generate the frequencies, and then we are going to count if. So you have the A2, A21. So that is actually for categorical data. We're supposed to use the frequency to A51 rather. And then we are going to get the let me just check if this the general form is still not working. Before we found we had to use the cumulative form. Okay, still not working. So let's use the cumulative form. So that is that frequency up to 9. Then this is going to be the frequency A2 to A51 up to minus whatever is up here. Let me just fix this so I can just copy over the formula A2 to A51. So this is the frequency of the items. You could do this, you could do a hand count, but since it's Excel, I don't need to do that. So let me see if I can copy over this formula and get correct values. Are these correct? A2 minus whatever is in D4 minus whatever is in E3. So let me see the sum. The sum of this should actually give me 50. I don't think it's doing so right now. So let's go back. We get the cumulative frequency. That is going to be, we get the frequency A2 to A51. That upper limit gives us that. We need 49 here, so that gives us that. So the actual frequency is going to be, that is 10, 18 minus 10 is 8, 22 minus 18 is 4, then 38 minus 22 is 16, then 46 minus that is 38, rather 46 minus 16, wait a minute, this should be A51. Okay, I have to fix this. So let's do that again. We have cumulative frequency of, so that's 10, 18, 22 minus 8 is 4, 38 minus 22 is 16, 50 minus 38 is 12. Sum should be 50 if you've done this correctly. So there we go. So those are our frequencies, right? So if you want to get the mean for group data, so the mean grouped is actually going to be it's going to be the summation. It's going to be the summation of the frequency it will actually be the summation of the frequency from keep on getting the wrong insert new equation. So it's going to be the summation of the we need a large operator, so from I is equal to 1, I is equal to n, I is equal to n. So the summation of the frequency frequency of the ith group times the middle value. So whatever we consider times the middle value over the total frequency. We need a large operator over the total frequency. So in this case, our middle value this is 0.5. So we have to get the middle value. These are the midpoints. So the midpoint times the frequency should give us, it's going to be this by this. And here we go. So the mean is the sum of this I'm not going to put in the formula now because we know they are 50. So it's actually the group mean, right? And it should approximate the actual mean. Let's see the actual mean. So the actual mean is going to be the average A2 to A51. So it's actually very close to it. It approximates the actual mean. So similarly, if you wanted to compute the variance, if I wanted to get the sample variance, for instance, var s for group data is going to be let me just copy over this. But in this case, we are going to be these midpoints minus the mean. You get these midpoints minus we need to square them. The square of these midpoints so these midpoints minus Rx bar and then we square, and you're going to see that this actually still approximates the actual variance. So here we have our deviations. So the deviations are the midpoints. Yeah, midpoints. What happened? So the deviations are going to be these midpoints minus the mean, the group mean that we computed. So these are midpoints. These are the deviations. Then we have to square this. So we get, let me just zoom in this. Let me just zoom this in a bit. If you're going to be using a mobile phone, maybe. So you have this here, whatever that is, multiplied by itself. Then you're going to get the frequency by the square dev, by the square deviations. So you end up with so it's going to be that times times the frequency, right? And this is going to give you that. So we are going to get the sum of that now to get the sample covariance. It is the sum of this range divided by, I already know we have 50 elements, divided by 49. So you get that. So if I get the actual variance, the actual sample variance, it should be very close to that. So it was A2 to A51. So this is the actual A2 to A51. So something wrong now. So we had the deviations. The deviations should be the midpoints. So I think this is where we have the problem. Yeah, so the midpoint, because the midpoint is the representative value minus the, so I didn't fix this. So you have to be very careful when using Excel. Make sure you fix your values. So let me see how this changes things. So you can see this is very close again, yeah? So the grouped variance is supposed to approximate. It will not be exact, but it will be very close to the. So you do this for some certain types of data when it's maybe for some reason you cannot use the actual value. Yeah, for some reason you can't use the actual value, then you can use this to approximate. So this is what you do for group data, but then you can also have weighted. So we're doing this for group data. So you can have weighted data. So you're doing weighted data. Mean weighted. So the weight is going to be, let me just give you an example of when you have weighted data. For instance, you are if you go to the supermarket to buy meats, maybe you have different types of meat. Yeah, so you have meats here, you have fish, you have chicken, you have liver, you have beef, then you have pork, right? So fish could cost maybe 15,000 a kilo. Chicken could cost maybe 18,000 a kilo. Liver could cost 20,000 a kilo. Beef could cost 13,000 a kilo. Maybe this is also costing 13,000 a kilo, and you want to know the price. Basically, you want to know the price per kilo. This is the cost per kilo. Then you have the number of kilos, right? Let me just do a random. Maybe you buy something between 1 and 5 kilos for this. So these are daily meats. Let me just copy over. So if I want to know the average price of meat, so the weighted mean is going to be from, and this is going to be, instead of frequency, I'm going to have the weight for the ith element. It's actually going to be the weight. Then instead of frequency here, I'm going to have the weight. Yeah, so you can see the relationship that group data is actually a weighted mean where the frequency is the weight. That's what it means. Yeah. So if I wanted group data, I'd replace the weight with the frequency. So grouped data is actually a weighted kind of data where the frequency is the weight. So in this case, sorry, I still have the frequency, but the midpoint is actually going to be the weight, and then this is going to be, yeah. So here we are. So the frequency by, for the group data is a kind of weighted data where the midpoint is the weight. Yeah, where the midpoint is the weight, something like that. So here we go. So if I want to get the mean here, we simply multiply this by that. So you're going to get the total cost overall, then divide by the total weight. Yeah, so this is going to be the sum, the average, grouped average. Okay, it is the sum of this, the grouped average is going to be the sum of that divided by the sum of the weights, yeah, which in this case are costs per different types of meat. So this is the grouped average. Did I get it right? So you have the cost per kilo divided, so it's the sum of, over the the number of kilograms, yeah, sum C2 to C6, sum C2 to so this gives you the average. So on average, the cost per kilo is going to be 16,250 shillings, right? That's the cost per kilo overall, regardless of the type of meat. And if I do this times the number of kilos, this 16, if I want to get the total cost, for instance, it's going to be this times whatever this is, yeah, times the sum times this sum. You should give me back the total cost, yeah, of 325,000. Then you'll see that 325,000 is actually this sum. Just to check, so you can see it actually makes sense. So this is the grouped. This is how we do a group mean. You could also do, for instance, when you're computing the CGPA, it's actually the same thing. Yeah, when you compute the CGPA, you have the grade point average. So for instance, you'll have some scores here. Statistics, you'd have some other mark for analysis and design. You'd have some other mark here for programming. You'd have some other mark here for emerging trends. You'd have some other mark here for statistics, for security, say. Then you'd have the actual grade point. So your grade point could be anything from 2 to 5. We have a 5-point grade point in Makerere University. So anything between 2 and 5, or sometimes you get 0, but then we assume you're going to get a retake, right? And you have to complete the retake. So let's just fix this. So that's the grade point. Then you have the credit units. The credit units. So let's say these are your credit units. So the grade point is going to be that by that. So you find that this is your total grade point. If you squared something like this, this is going to be your cumulative grade point average, or your CGPA, right? So your CGPA is actually a grouped. This is how you calculate it. So this brings us to the end of chapter. Brings us to the end of this